what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
Foot Candle Films. Film news and reviews from two guys who really like movies.
This episode is brought to you by the Foot Candle Film Society. For a schedule of upcoming screenings and membership information, visit the Society's website at www.footcandle.org.
Hello and welcome to Foot Candle Films here on themesh.tv. My name is Alan Jackson. I am a co-director and co-founder of the Foot Candle Film Society and Foot Candle Film Festival. Chris Fry with me here as always, the other of the co-director and co-founder. How you doing, Chris?
I am doing good. I saved myself some hours of sleep last night by not staying up and watching the Golden Globes. So I am wide awake, I've had my cups of coffee, and I'm ready to discuss films.
Okay, awesome. Good to hear. Yes, I did not watch the Golden Globes either. I figured I could just pull up an article this morning that shows me all the winners, and I get the same information I would have wanted from the telecast in general.
There you go.
But again, very odd year, obviously, with the way they're handling the awards and having to do everything virtually. And it is delaying what we're going to talk about a little bit later, not only the winners of the Golden Globes in our news section, but kind of the implications it may be having for the Oscar race, which is a little bit longer. We've got a little bit more time to wait for those nominations and awards this year.
The Oscar marathon this year.
That's true.
Not just a race.
Exactly. But before we get to all of that, talking Golden Globes and some of those news items, we do have two films that we'll be discussing in this episode and reviewing for you. First up will be a film by Shaka King, Judas and the Black Messiah, starring Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield. And then we'll be discussing the film Rams, a remake of an Icelandic film starring Sam Neill and Michael Keaton. That's going to be coming up a little later. And then we'll move on to some movie news where we talk about the results of the Golden Globes and maybe preview a new trailer that just released we'd like to talk about a little bit. And we'll wrap up the show with our recommendation of the episode, where Chris and I each recommend a film that we think is worth checking out if you have time. And I think that's our show. So what do you say we go ahead and get started with that first review, Chris?
Let's do it.
Okay. First up is an HBO Max exclusive. Well, I mean, it went to the movie theaters, but more people are going to be seeing it on HBO Max. It is by director Shaka King. It is Judas and the Black Messiah.
Deputy Chairman Fred Hampton of the Illinois Black Panther Party.
Repeat after me. I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary.
You're looking at 18 months for the stolen car, 5 years for impersonating a federal officer, or you can go home.
In Judas and the Black Messiah, we have the story of Fred Hampton, deputy chairman of the National Black Panther Party, who was assassinated in 1969 by a Cook County tactical unit on the orders of the FBI and the Chicago Police Department. Alongside that story, we also have the story of Bill O'Neill, who infiltrates the Black Panther Party and working with an FBI agent and J. Edgar Hoover. So, Chris, we have a film here where we've got two characters that we're following, just as like I talked about in the introduction there. Obviously, intersecting stories, but we've got two characters that are going through some developments in very, very interesting time period of history here. We have Daniel Kaluuya starring as Fred Hampton, the chairman of the National Black Panther Party. Lakeith Stanfield starring as Bill O'Neill, the one who actually infiltrates the party, working with an FBI agent. Along that, Jesse Plemons playing the FBI agent that Lakeith Stanfield's character works with. And then Dominique Fishback playing Deborah Johnson, who becomes involved with Daniel Kaluuya and involved with the Black Panther Party in general. Chris, in this, when we're following two characters that both have some interesting storylines going on, And we're also talking about a very critical, pivotal time in American history. How did the film do in balancing and sharing stories of both characters? And did the film overall as a whole work for you?
So, it is a problem because they're really interested. For me, it was the film. I mean, it worked for me, I guess, as much as you could say. A biopic that I had seen documentaries about Fred Hampton and about the whole Black Panther Party. So I already knew, and you mentioned the assassination. So I kind of already knew the circumstances around it. So there were no surprises for me. Mm-hmm. And I felt like something within the screenplay maybe just seemed a little loose or looser than I thought it would be, especially considering, we had shown the trailer, not shown, but we had a little bit of the trailer, talked about the trailer on an earlier show, and we were both looking forward to it. And it was just such a dynamic trailer and kind of setting a tone. And the performances in the film, Lakeith Stanfield, Daniel Kaluuya, like you mentioned, I think they're really good. But just some of the pacing just seemed like it just kind of laid there. And there are some dynamic scenes where Fred Hampton is giving some speeches, and he's a great orator. Daniel Kaluuya does a good job of portraying him. So that was effective, and that was dynamic. Then you have some scenes where you have conversations in between the FBI agent played by Jesse Plemons and Lakeith Stanfield. There's some tension there. There's some great moments. But overall, I was really surprised at how the film just didn't move for me. It didn't really click for me like I thought it would. Mm-hmm. So I will say something to also note, which I've heard people kind of go back and forth on. Martin Sheen is in this film playing J. Edgar Hoover. J. Edgar Hoover, when he appeared for the first time, I was like, whoa, that guy, that guy looks really freaky, which I guess is supposed to be part of the point because J. Edgar Hoover was this really domineering figure and really intimidating. And then I kind of didn't know who it was at first. Mm-hmm. And then once I knew it was Martin Sheen, I thought it was kind of cool. But I know there's been a lot of blowback. They said like his makeup's ridiculous. They find it really distracting. Kind of how like maybe I felt in some of the things with like The Irishman, although that was a lot digital. I think this was practical stuff.
Yeah, I think it was all practical.
For me, I thought it was cool.
Yeah, no, I like this part. I like this part. I like the performance. I like the way it was played off. I did really enjoy this film. Okay. I do echo some of the same concerns you have. And the reason I kind of even started with that intro lead up is that I do feel like it's a film that's trying to balance two different characters and storyline developments, and both equally important, but a little tough to pull off in one film. And I think that may have caused it for me to be just a little less effective than I was hoping. I was fascinated by the story of Bill O'Neill, the car thief in the beginning who actually starts to work for the FBI. The way they introduce his character in the first little bit and just his relationship with the FBI in general was very interesting, but also something I felt like just kind of tapered off over time, and more of the energy went to Fred Hampton. Again, very, very interesting storyline there too. But I feel like it shifted from one to the other, and I felt like we just didn't really get to follow one as deeply as I think we'd like to. It's really two films. I mean, it could have been two films and two stories with this. The intersection of the two is important because obviously Bill's role in Fred's life is important and kind of leads to the culmination of the film. But I was just really fascinated by the Bill O'Neill character, and I kind of wanted more of his relationship with not only Fred, but also with the FBI and how that was developing over time. It seemed to be very haphazard as it was kind of rolling it out throughout the rest of the film.
Well, I think this is my first Shaka King film, and I think it is what he's done other work.
He's done TV work and shorts, but I think it's his first like major studio film.
And some of the, I think that balancing act, maybe that's where kind of a newer person, it shows that maybe the balancing act isn't quite as confident. Mm-hmm. Something that felt really odd to me, like you say, along the same lines, thought Fred Hampton's, his storyline, his arc was handled really well. But it was with Bill O'Neill where I felt things kind of tapered off and they weren't really adjusted very well. Specifically, there's a scene where Bill O'Neill goes and visits Jesse Plemons, Roy Mitchell's home, and they have this conversation. And I thought it was really weird. And, you know, sometimes taking an original tack on a scene such as that is like, okay, he's going into the lion's den. He's at this FBI agent's house. He's there for like a cookout or like a barbecue or something. It's like this ostensibly, you know, fine little thing, like a, oh, get to know me type thing, which there is tension in that, and that's good. But what was odd to me was in the scene, you don't see, it's like they didn't want to pay to have extras, and it's just him sitting on a couch and Bill, and like I think he has one of his kids at some point, but then he goes to put the kid down, and it's just like, it felt really weird because like setting it up is like, okay, here's the situation. He's walking into a trap. There's this like party going on. There's a family. There's, I would assume, like a wife. And it's just like all off screen. So it's like in a smaller budget thing, you wouldn't be surprised. It's like, oh, well, they can't afford all these extras. They don't have the time to set a scene. They're just cutting right to like the point. But it felt very isolated in a vacuum as opposed to woven into the rest of the film for me. And I don't know, felt it was kind of odd.
I will say the things I really admired about this film, I thought the acting was all excellent, absolutely excellent. I'm to a point now where I will basically go see anything Daniel Kaluuya or Lakeith Stanfield are going to be in these days. Seeing the two of them together and their times that they got to play off each other, very, very well done. And I do want to call out, I mentioned her in the introduction, but Dominique Fishback as Deborah Johnson, I thought was extremely good.
She is really good.
A role that you think is going to be a very insignificant role early on turns out to be a lot more impactful. And her closing scenes during some of the horror of the final moments we have in the film was very good, very, very good. So I was really impressed. And Jesse Plemons, this guy keeps popping up in films we're seeing these days, and I think he gets better and better. He's got a type he plays, but he plays it really, really well. And he was also really good here too. So I do think acting wise, it was a real powerhouse performances there. And I will say this with Shaka King, although I do feel like the script was a little meandering and tried to cover too much ground and not really do enough with each individual person or storyline. I do think he has a really good knack for portraying, building up tension and heightened drama, but never at the expense of forgetting the importance of the story. So there are moments that are, I hate using the word thrilling because that's not the word you want to use, but they're intense and they're built up drama, but yet you never forget the importance of, hey, this is what's happening and this is why this is happening. And I think he balances that drama and intensity that you would expect to get from more of a crime drama or a gangster drama. And he's got it really nicely balanced with overall the importance of what the story is saying and what happened. And it's the kind of film, it makes you mad, by the end. I mean, to think about what's transpired and what happened and the people that were involved in it. So I do think there was a nice balance between tension, drama, and the importance of the story. I just wish the story was either a little tighter or a little more focused or had spent more time digging in on one storyline or the other. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's really easy to play, I guess, armchair filmmaker instead of armchair quarterback. But I could see an interesting take where you make a film focused on Fred Hampton and then you kind of pull a Clint Eastwood Flags of Our Fathers type thing, and you do the same film, but do it from the perspective of Bill O'Neill. So it's kind of like a sequel or whatever.
Yeah.
And that to me would have allowed you, because obviously these are two very interesting characters, just so tough to do one film on both.
Yeah.
And so, that I would have liked to see, Shaka King do that or something, but.
Well, and thinking more about it, I think it's a little bit the fact too that Fred Hammer in the early stages of the film is a little more of a mythical figure. I mean, he's not, you don't get a lot of direct interaction with him as much. And it's more of everybody's talking about him and the impact he has on people. And I loved it when we dug deeper into Fred Hammer and his relationship with Deborah and just some of his own insecurities he's dealing with and concerns and fears. I loved all of that, but I felt like once we kind of peeked behind the curtain and we got to know Fred, we lost sight of Bill O'Neill, the FBI side of things, because that's where they're trying to learn more. And it's almost like we as the audience are now getting to learn things that the FBI doesn't get to learn, and that reduces some of the impact of the film, I think. So
How did you feel about the recreated footage bookends?
I liked it.
I did not.
Okay.
And in part, I think what made me, and I'm there again, I'm not going to get into spoiler territory, but even though this is a historical event, so it's like most people know things, but it didn't bother me the first book, at the beginning of the film, but when they came back to it at the end and they used it again, they then, after that kind of ended, they revealed some things in some on-screen text, and that bothered me. And they actually did a switch between some actual footage of Bill O'Neill talking and then like cutting between that and it felt kind of like a cheap shot to me.
I will say it was impactful to me. I mean, I knew nothing about this story going into it. Right. So unfortunately, I had a little more of a benefit than you did in that I did not know what was going to be happening with Fred Hampton's character. I did not know where the storyline was going. I didn't know what really happened in real life. So I kind of went in with a little more not lower expectations, just no expectations of story. So that closing lines and those closing testimonial interviews, they got me a little bit more, probably because I just wasn't expecting anything. Mm-hmm. So the whole last 15, 20 minutes it's tough. It's a tough watch. It's a tough sequence on film. I think well done and well acted for sure. I could see how you could see that title, the closing title and the closing testimony clip to be a little bit of a cheat, but it worked for me personally. So yes, overall, I think, Judas and the Black Messiah. Yeah. It's not the masterpiece I kind of was hoping for, sure. But it's not because of the lack of acting or the lack of content or the story it's telling. It's all very, very important and well worth a watch. Absolutely. Sure. I just, I think it could have been a little tighter. I think it could have been a little more focused. I think it could really had an impact if it picked one or the other primary character that we're going to be following and really dig in deeper on that. So, but it sounds like you were maybe a little more let down than me just because you might have had a little more expectation going into it as well. So
yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay. But Judas and the Black Messiah is still absolutely a worthwhile film to see. I mean, I do think we'll be talking about this film a little bit later in the Golden Globes because it did actually walk away with an award. And I think it's going to be in the Oscar conversation to some degree, is my personal feeling. Definitely on the acting side. I think there'll be some acting nominations no matter what for a couple of the key roles here. So that is Judas and the Black Messiah, again, directed by Shaka King. It is available on HBO Max. I know it's also been showing at some select theaters. But for most people right now, that's probably going to be your best option for going to see it, would be on HBO Max. Chris, let's move on to our second film that we're going to be discussing. It is a remake of, I think, a 2015 film, Icelandic film, and technically the same name film, although obviously it was in Icelandic when it was released in 2015. But the film's name is Rams.
Look at you, my beauties. You are beautiful. You are beautiful. But you're the best.
This is the one we've all been waiting for, folks. The Calvin Horn ram judging.
Fine ram, all right? He's gonna be a busy boy, I reckon.
What do you mean?
Okay, the Grimacin brothers find themselves the last two standing yet again. And Les Grimacin is the winner.
Oh, come on, Cole, cheer up.
Right.
You two haven't spoken in 40 years. Why start now?
Les's ram. He's sick.
Farmers have been shocked by the discovery of a highly infectious disease.
They're mine! Don't take them, mate!
A control plan has been put in place in the hope of containing the outbreak.
I reckon we spent half our lives in here.
It means everything to them.
That's it, mate. They're taking the whole bloody valley.
Why don't they take us while they're at it? Finish the job.
You gotta follow the rules.
No kidding.
Sam Neill and Michael Caton star as a pair of brothers in Australia who raise sheep living next door to each other, but they haven't spoken in decades because of a long-standing feud. Things manage to become more contentious when Colin, played by Sam Neill, discovers that his brother's prized ram has a rare and highly contagious lethal illness. So with rams, this is the 2020 version, as you mentioned, not the 2015 version from Iceland. What was your overall experience with this film, Alan?
I like this film. I mean, it was fine. It was, you could do worse than watching this film. Let me just put it that way. I had a good time watching it. It was, I think, enjoyable, interesting, because I think the whole ram breeding, Australian outback, a lot of elements that, we're not as used to seeing. So I'm always happy to see kind of a different side of a life that I'm not used to. And I enjoyed it. I think Sam Neill and Michael Caton are having kind of fun with the role to some degree. I think they seem to be kind of, I don't know, Sam Neill, I've never really seen him do what borders on, I don't want to say slapsticky, but kind of physical comedy that he gets to do a little bit more of here in a few moments. Gets to kind of act out a bit. I think they seemed like they
Hunt for the Wilder People.
There was a little bit of that, but I felt like this was a little bit more bordered on that situational comedy in some situations. We'll talk about in a little bit with the plot, but
Gotcha.
Overall, it was a fine film. I don't think it was terribly well made. I don't think it was the best storytelling. I feel like there was a lot of things that they could have done more early on to kind of build up a little bit of awareness with the characters and with the whole ram breeding culture. But overall, I think it was good. If anything, this film got me more interested to see the original, because I'm curious the tone and style of the original, if maybe it was a little bit of a better fit than what we got here. But again, I enjoyed it. I think it's a well worth film to watch. And, but I'm anxious to hear your thoughts. What do you think of it?
So, this is kind of it's kind of the broken record from the first review. Unfortunately for me, I felt like, which I was curious because you hadn't seen the 2015.
No.
I had.
Okay.
And I liked it.
Okay.
But when I heard they were remaking this, I was like, okay, they're moving it to Australia, so it's going to be in English. Okay. Sam Neill, he's a known quantity. Okay. Interesting. Miranda Richardson plays kind of a love interest. I've, aware of her work as well. So I was like, cool. I'm looking forward to this. And in the original, the brothers have the same type of relationship. But what was interesting in that film is I felt like there was even maybe 50% less dialogue in the film overall. And a lot of it was just action happening and brothers' facial reactions. And not even because they obviously don't talk to one another, but there was something about it that actually communicated kind of a weird, almost kind of quirky humor. I don't know how to explain it, and definitely a very Icelandic sense of humor. So kind of this very low key, understated type thing. But it worked. And I felt like it was just kind of like a Cliff Notes version. So it really didn't achieve what that film was able to, but then it's unfair maybe for me to hold them up against one another, but it is a remake. So you can't help but it didn't bring anything new to it. And then some of the ways the 2015 film was unique, I felt like this one wasn't. Well,
that was probably my biggest, the whole time I'm thinking, I wonder if the original was more unique, because there really wasn't anything unique about this. And again, it's an enjoyable story. Don't get me wrong. And again, I came in not having seen the original, so I'm coming into this with a first blush. I thought the story itself was interesting. The two, you have, like you said, the two ram breeders that are have their farms, and they lose all the animals because of this disease, and kind of what they have to do to kind of make amends or to get through this situation. And of course, exploring the relationship between the two brothers. I do think it was well cast. I think Sam Neill and Michael Caton, I think, are good in those two roles. Michael Caton get to play the shaggier, a little more despondent, a little more abrasive brother, and Sam Neill seeming to play the little more put upon brother over the years. but seeming to do a little bit better in his life than his other brother. So,
right, and I thought Neil did a good job in playing the part, and not that Caton didn't do a good job, but something about, and they're again bringing baggage from the other film. The relationship, I didn't feel like I knew or I believed the relationship enough between the two brothers. The other one felt pretty authentic, and this one was seemed like just a comedy, excuse for comedy.
Yeah.
And so it didn't work quite as well for me. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's a fault of Caton. I just think it just wasn't there.
Well, yeah, I think in general, it does seem to kind of like, I think you said it right, the Cliff Notes version. Even in not having seen the original, I feel like this is hitting the key moments that you need to hit, and that's it. So, for example, there's competitions going on where they are pitting their rams against each other in these competitions. More shots of the underside of rams than I really need to see anytime soon. So I'm caught up on my underside of ram shots.
One too many grabbing of ram testicles.
Yes, I'm good on that. I have checked that box. I'm done for a while. But the whole competition, I think, is interesting because obviously it's something that you start to understand. There's a lot more animosity between the brothers because of this competition. Mm-hmm. But I felt like it was almost like, yep, show you one, and then just kind of move on, and it didn't really build it up. The relationship of the brothers, you're right, was handled kind of very slightly, where you get a little understanding of why they are the way they are, but I just don't feel like it was really ever dug into very deep, which would have made the ending a lot more impactful if I felt like we had a little more build up to why these brothers are the way they are.
Well, and so this film's like 2 hours.
Yeah.
The original was about 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where that extra half hour went in this one, but it felt like it really wasn't achieving any character development. Now, I will say, there was the beauty of Australia was on display in the cinematography. It looked amazing. What was established in both films, and I think they achieved it in this one, was an atmosphere of the farming community that seemed very lived in and authentic. The way the farmers interacted with one another, the way they bonded together to try to figure out how they were going to overcome the fact that, their sheep were getting sick. Like all that felt authentic. Mm-hmm. But somehow, like you're saying, even despite the longer running time, the believability between some of the brothers thing just wasn't achieved.
Yeah,
so
I will say the part of the film I probably enjoyed the most, and I don't know why, it's a very kind of odd part of the film to enjoy, but the mechanics that Sam Neill's character went through in his home to house the rams. Again, I'm not going to give away too much of what happens there, but he has to do some things within his house to accommodate some animals. Right. And the mechanics, the what he has to do on a regular basis to make this work, I thought was pretty interesting. And actually, I would have liked more of that. I want to know, how do you keep this ruse going up for so long?
Right.
And it was touched on, and we got a few moments of it, but again, not anything they spent a lot of time on. And really, from the running time, Chris, there's a whole 10 minutes late in the film. I'm just going to say riding on like a little four-wheeler.
Okay.
Late in the film that I still don't really understand what was happening there. Like there was just a whole moment where they were riding. I know there was fire coming and they just kept riding and riding and riding. And then anyway, I don't want to give away too much of it, but I do think there's some moments where I question, what is this? Where is this going? What is this doing development wise? And it did extend that running time to the point where, like you said, I don't really feel like it added anything to it. So,
well, and complaining about endings being manipulative, again, broken record for me. I felt at the end there's kind of, there is a fire that you're discussing and complications ensue. And then they cut to post-fire. Mm-hmm. And the way they set things up, you're assuming certain things. Yeah. And then they kind of have this little gotcha moment in there. And I was like, seriously? And I'm not talking about the end shot, which the very final shots kind of show you maybe a rationalization behind what was going on with the 4-wheeler truck that took forever.
Right.
But still just maybe not as handled as well as it could have, not as tight as it could have.
I think that's one more of my thing is, the more I think about it, sure, I can kind of start to piece together what was going on in that last little bit, but it wasn't told very
Just not
well.
effectively told.
No.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did feel like the post-fire, it was a little
cheap.
I'll admit the last moment we have, there's a scene where Michael Keaton's character is trying to help his brother at the waterside, at the coast.
Yes.
I thought that was really good. I thought that was actually a well done scene. I wish it had earned it more through the rest of the film.
Yeah.
Because I felt like it kind of came out of nowhere. Like, okay, wow, it was a good scene, well acted, and it was a nice emotional moment, but I don't feel like it was earned at all. So
Right.
I don't understand how they could flip a switch and now this person would feel differently. So a little shaggy, a little tough to make all the emotional moments work when
So
you
you're
didn't
saying
really build
Rams
them up
needed to
right.
be sheared. Is that what you're saying? A little bit.
Yeah, that's exactly what I meant to say, but you took it right out of my mouth. So very nice. Yeah, no, I think again, it's a good movie. I think I had a good time with it. I enjoyed it. It is something that we're showing for our Foot Candle members right now. We're on our Foot Candle online cinema. I definitely think it's worth a view of it. I do think probably if you'd seen the original, you could probably be a little let down by this, and just know that I don't think it's the tightest storytelling that it could have been. But I think it has some fun moments. It has some very, I think, well done emotional moments. So overall, I'm going to give it a pass. I'm going to give it a thumbs up and say I think it's worth watching.
Yeah, I'll do the same. There was, it's nothing to make it stand out from a lot of other films, but it's not a bad film.
Yeah. I mean, there again, as we're picking and choosing content that we get to watch at home,
Sure.
And you could do worse than, a couple hours watching Rams in Australia and checking out the beautiful Australia outback and some good performances, I think, too. So,
Sure.
Okay. Well, that is Ram. I didn't even mention who the director was of this. I felt bad about that. Jeremy Sims was the director of Rams. Now, he was not the director of the original, correct?
Correct. The original person both wrote and directed the film, Grimmer, I'm just going to butcher the name, but Grimmer Hakanarsson or something. And he acts as like a consultant on this film, I think, or maybe a producer, but no. So, yeah, he did
completely different crew making this film.
Right, right.
Okay. Well, that is Rams. As I mentioned earlier, it is available on the Foot Candle online cinema, which means you could actually go and watch this film anytime you want to on our cinema. If you go to footcandle.org, there's a button across the top for the virtual cinema. You go there and you can buy a ticket to watch Rams anytime you'd like over the next little while it's available at the theater. And as well, you can check out other films that are available on the online cinema at the same time. If you're a Foot Candle member and current member, you get a pass to see Rams for free as part of your membership. So I hope you've used that. And we do encourage checking it out. It's a good movie to watch.
And whether you're a member or not a member, if you do watch it and agree or disagree with our takes, we'd love to hear your feedback. Just send us an email and let us know. info@footcandle.org.
All right. We're going to take a quick little break. When we come back, we're going to do some news, mainly talking Golden Globe announcements on the film awards. And then we'll also be playing a little bit of a new trailer talking about, and we will be giving our recommendations of the episode. So stay tuned. You're listening to Foot Candle Films here on themesh.tv. We'll be right back.
This podcast is sponsored by Jackson Creative, a custom communication agency located in downtown Hickory, North Carolina, specializing in online content creation. To learn more, visit thejacksoncreative.com. Jackson Creative, we tell your story.
Hello and welcome back to Foot Candle Films here on themesh.tv. Alan Jackson and Chris Fry with you once again from the Foot Candle Film Society and the annual Foot Candle Film Festival. And we just finished with our reviews of the film Judas and the Black Messiah and Rams. We're giving positive reviews to both films, although both of them maybe felt like left us a little lacking in some areas we were hoping that they were going to be stronger. But overall, we're still saying two good films and worth your time checking out. Chris, speaking of films worth checking out, the Golden Globes are an award show that I don't really ever plan to watch. I don't have really interest in things, but what I do make a note to do is the morning after the Golden Globes, I do like to see what films were winning.
Sure.
Mainly because I feel like it is the one that's it's the closest thing we've got right now to a little bit of a preview of maybe where the Academy Awards could be leaning. Now, that's not to say that this is where they're going to go, because there's been plenty of years where completely different things have changed.
Sure.
I think even last year, if I remember reading correctly, like the films that were big in the Oscars were not players at all in the Golden Globe. So you really can't use it as a terribly great predictor, but it is the closest thing we've got right now. So I'll use it.
Sure.
So let me hit some of the film-related ones. That's why we're a film show. We don't need to talk about the television award categories. But a few of these, I think, some interesting surprises and some films that have now gone up the ranks on my watch list as far as ones I'll probably feel like I need to start checking out before we get too deep into the award season. Let me start with just kind of the big ones right up front. So, the Golden Globes has two categories. They do everything in dramas or musical and comedy, which I still think is kind of ridiculous. And I think there's a lot of films that are very hard to place in one or the other, but so be it.
Sure.
The best motion picture as a drama was Nomadland, which you have seen.
Yes.
I have not.
Okay.
I will be watching it before Academy Awards because I've got a feeling it'll be.
So this lets you know I do need to watch this.
Well, it was already on my list to begin with. This has now even solidified it more. Best motion picture drama, that's the one Frances McDormand stars in. But what I thought was a great award related to that is the Best Director Award, which did go to Chloe Zhao, the director of Nomadland. So not only is she the first Asian American to be winning this the Director Award in the Golden Globes, but she's only the second woman to win it ever.
Gotcha.
Do you know who the first woman was?
It's not the Hurt Locker.
No.
Catherine Bigelow. No, it's not her.
She won Oscar Best Director.
Okay, but not
Golden Globe.
First,
back to 1983.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
you're
not going to get this.
No,
it's Barbara Streisand for Yentl.
Okay.
Yep, that was the last time only other time a woman won Best Director Golden Globes, and now Chloe Zhao is the second.
Okay.
So I think that was great. I was happy to hear that. And then the best motion picture, musical or comedy, Borat, subsequent movie film. We reviewed that on the show here.
Yes.
We were both okay with it. Felt like it was a drop down from the original. Didn't care for it as much as that. But the best comedy or when they say comedy or musical, to me, that I kind of lump in anything that's like a lighter film, like a lighter drama or a lighter comedy or something with music in it.
Well, you just look at the other nominees in the category. You have Hamilton, Palm Springs, The Prom, and music. So, yeah, it's kind of...
It was kind of a weak crowd, a little bit weak. Palm Springs, I think is good.
That's an outright comedy, so that would kind of pair with Borat. But then you look at Hamilton, and it's like that.
Well, it's because it's just musical. Right, that's the only way they fit it in there.
Right.
And then the film music, Sia's film music is getting trashed and panned, and was kind of considered a surprise to even make the field on the Golden Globes. So,
sure.
I guess given the field, I guess Borat could squeak out the win over Palm Springs, maybe. You could. Both are pretty original, creative films. I don't know. I don't have a lot of stock in anything in that category, unfortunately, either way. But then we get down to the performances. So this is where there's some interesting films that I need to put on my radar. I don't know about you.
Okay.
Best performance by an actress in a motion picture in a drama was Adria Day for The United States versus Billie Holiday. That's a film I did not have on my radar at all, but
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it. So
I'm anxious to see it now. Sound like it was a great performance there in that film. And then best performance by an actress, musical or comedy, was Rosamund Pike for I Care a Lot. You've seen this one, right?
I have. Mm-hmm.
See, you've seen everything, Chris.
Not everything. I didn't see the Billie Holiday.
I know, but you're close. You're so much further ahead than me. Worthy of the award, Chris?
We'll get more to that in recommendations.
Oh, so if it's a recommendation, then you may like it. Okay, good. Awesome. That's definitely another one I've got higher on my list now.
Okay.
On the best performance of an actress in a supporting role, they just have one supporting role award, even though they have two main acting awards. Again,
just to make everything as confusing as possible. Right.
Jodie Foster for the Mauritanian.
Sure. Heard of the film?
Yes.
I actually have a screener sitting at home of the film, and I have not watched it yet. But like you say, that's some of what the Golden Globes can do, even though you and I don't watch them. But they may give you, hey, you might want to catch up with these before Oscar time.
Yeah.
So that is one that I had thought about checking because the director is the same director, I'm blanking on his name right now, but he directed Last King of Scotland.
Oh, right. Oh, I didn't know that was the same.
Right, so it's the same director. And I hadn't seen any of his work. Kevin McDonald,
yes,
maybe?
That's it.
You're right. I hadn't seen any of his work in a while, so I'd heard he was the director of this. So I was like, okay, it's worth me checking out. And now that Jodie Foster's won as a supporting role, I'm interested. So.
Yeah, it's the Mauritanian is Jodie Foster, Tahar Rahim, Shailene Woodley, and Benedict Cumberbatch are all in that. So it's about a gentleman fighting for freedom after being detained and imprisoned without charge by the U.S. government for years.
Guantanamo, right? I think maybe.
Doesn't say, but I'm assuming that's probably a good guess. And unfortunately, probably a good pairing with Judas and the Black Messiah, talking about U.S. government acting outside of appropriate means. So
gotcha.
Anyway, Jodie Foster did win for Best Supporting Actress in any motion picture for that role. Then we move to The Gentleman, Best Performance by an Actor in a Motion Picture Drama. Chadwick Boseman winning post his death, obviously, for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. That's also a film I have not seen yet.
I have seen it. And,
I'm sure you have.
And yes, he's good.
He's good? Okay.
He's good. And I think, who knows all the great performances he had ahead of him. But I mean,
he was getting better. As the shame is that.
Was.
I mean,
and
it's just
he was definitely good in this.
Yeah.
And not that he wasn't good in Black Panther, but for him to win for a film like this, as opposed to maybe winning, maybe somehow for Black Panther, he still did a good job. But for not a comic book, for him being able to win for something like this, that's awesome.
Yeah. So. No, I definitely look forward to seeing that. Sacha Baron Cohen won Best Actor in Motion Picture Music or Comedy for the Borat film we talked about. And then, hearkening back to our original review, Best Performance in a Supporting Role in any motion picture was Daniel Kaluuya for Judas and the Black Messiah. Do you have the nominations pulled up? Was Lakeith Stanfield nominated for Best Actor in a drama?
See. Best Actor
in a drama.
I don't believe he was.
Really?
Let's see. Hold on just a second. No, he was not.
Best
Actor in a Drama, Chadwick Boseman won, Gary Oldman, Tahir Rahim for the Mauritanian, Riz Ahmed, and Anthony Hopkins.
Interesting.
So he was not. So, yeah, in that film, and we feel like we can talk about it because we just discussed the film, interesting that Kaluuya won for Best Supporting. So that would seem to think that, Lakeith Stanfield is the best lead, but
I do see him as the lead of the film. I kind of wish
they start off with him.
Well, and I kind of wish Daniel Kaluuya's role was maybe a little more of a supporting role.
Okay,
I think that would have balanced the film out a little bit better for me. But either way, Daniel Kaluuya definitely had the more showy, Oscar clip worthy role for sure.
Sure,
with the speeches and just his cadence and everything else, just his commanding presence on the screen. So anyway, I get it. I kind of wish Stanfield had been nominated for something, but we'll see. Again, when it comes to Oscars, it could be a different story.
True.
Then a few more categories on the film side. Best screenplay for a motion picture was Aaron Sorkin for The Trial of Chicago 7. Have not seen it. Best original score for a motion picture was Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross and John Baptiste for Soul. And then best original song.
Trent Reznor from 9 Inch Nails. I mean, he's done a lot of scores, but him doing a score for a Pixar movie to me is just vastly entertaining.
It's very cool.
And it's good, but it's just funny for me to think of how I first knew him and what he's doing now.
Yeah. So agreed.
Just kind of fun.
Best motion picture was Soul. And best motion picture foreign language, which this was a source of controversy when some of the things came out, is Minari. Even though Minari is a American film, just because it features a lead actors from another country, and English is not spoken dominantly in the film. Foreign language, I get it. I understand why there's kind of the distinction, but unfortunately it did put Minari in a different category than I think people feel like it should have been up there with some bigger category nominations as well, right? Was it nominated for Best Picture at all?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I
think it got regulated to the foreign language,
right.
unfortunately.
And when I saw that, I was like, wait, what? But I get it. There is a lot of foreign language in it, but it just seemed, whereas the other entries in that category are what you would typically think of, which, you and I have talked about another round, which lost out, but we feel like that's maybe a favorite for the Oscar. But who knows?
Well, I think again, it's all about how they handle Minari, and if they treat it, just like any other film and not regulate it to the foreign language side, then I do think another round could be a kind of more of a favorite.
Sure.
If they consider Minari as a foreign language film, which, I mean, they can't, because in the Oscars, each country has to submit and have their film kind of in contention.
That's my understanding.
So, I mean, if this is a film that technically, by all accounts, is an American studio film.
America would have to submit it.
Right. Then it can't be.
Work.
Yeah. Country of origin is United States, just because Korean is spoken prominently in the film.
Right.
Doesn't make it a foreign film or international film like the Academy Awards call it.
Right.
So, okay. Couple of snubs here, Chris. So there are two films that got a lot of.
I haven't heard a certain movie mentioned at all, which was my favorite film of 2020.
I know. There were two films that went in with a lot of nominations, and neither of them got anything.
Very disappointed I haven't heard about Trolls World Tour.
That was one. No, yeah. No, that actually, surprisingly, no nominations this year, I don't think. Or maybe just animated film. I don't know if it was or not. No. Well, first off, the film Mank by David Fincher got nothing, which you're not terribly surprised. I'm a little surprised. I'm not disappointed, because I did like the film, but I don't feel like it was a best of the year contender. But Promising Young Woman, that's the film that kind of smarts a little bit. You and I both are right now, that's sitting at the top film of the year for us. Mm-hmm. And it did come in with, I think, 4 or 5 nominations and didn't get anything.
And I have to say, I'm not surprised. Because I feel like you and I talked about, it's has a lot of stuff going on in the film. It can be kind of challenging, and I can understand some people really disliking it for how they feel like it may portray certain things. But I am disappointed, but I'm not surprised. Mm-hmm. I think this will be one that I hope it will get some kind of nomination for the Oscars, and this will be the one where, last year, I always have a favorite, and I'm like, I just always want. In each category, I'll be like, okay, this is who I want. This is who I want to win. Mm-hmm. This is who I think will win. Promising Young Woman, if they get nominated for some categories, I'll probably be like, okay, that's the one I want to win, but I don't think it will, just because I'm pulling for it because I liked it so much because it was trying so much and seemed to be really original. So. Yeah.
No, I'm with you. I was disappointed to see, especially the director. I was really hoping the director would actually get would actually win. For the film, because I think she did an excellent job with it. Sure. And I would have been happy too with Carey Mulligan for lead actress. Right. But
and she did get nominated.
No, there were nominations for sure. So it was at least recognized. So we can take solace in that. Sure. But not walking away with any trophies or whatever they give out for the Golden Globes. I'm not sure what it is. Is it actually a Golden Globe?
I think it is a Golden Globe little award.
Well, I guess that would make sense. Yeah. But again, this gives us some insight into where some critical minds are thinking about films for the year. But keep in mind, last year, I think the Golden Globes were like all over 1917. Okay. And then Parasite was obviously the big film in the Academy Awards.
That's an example. You talk about Chris getting excited. We have an Oscar party for our film society. And this was right before, because when the Oscars happened last year, before the pandemic hit. Mm-hmm. And when they announced that Parasite won, I was like, yes! I just shot, because I was really excited about that. So,
well, I think we'll be overly exuberant if Promising Young Woman were to win. I mean, definitely winning Best Picture, which I don't think is going to happen, but I would love it if it did. Sure. Or at least Best Actress or Best Director, I would be very, very happy.
Or
for it.
even screenplay.
Screenplay would be good too.
Except
I mean, I'd take any of those key big awards
Sure.
as ones to win from.
Sure.
Okay, so that's the Golden Globes. And now we just kind of wait. So the Academy Awards, the nominations get announced March 15th.
Yes.
And the ceremony, I think you told me beforehand, is late April.
Yeah, April 25th.
Wow.
So
Definitely later this year. So we will see what happens with that.
Yeah.
Should be very interesting. All right, Chris, let's shift gears. Do we have, when we get together, we try to talk about if there's any films coming out that we're interested in or curious about, especially if trailers come out. Do we have one to talk about today?
Well, it's a film that I am interested in.
Okay.
Disney has had this thing recently where they've taken beloved animated films and they have then recreated them in live action versions, such as, they did Maleficent. They pulled that villain from Sleeping Beauty and they made that. They've just totally redone Beauty and the Beast, The Jungle Book, Aladdin. So they just took, now kind of going back to that take that they had where they pulled the villain, they have decided to pull the villain from 101 Dalmatians and make Cruella, starring Emma Stone and Paul Walter Hauser, he's kind of a favorite of mine, kind of a newer face on the horizon. He's been in some films, but I really like him. He's also in this film. So the trailer for Cruella, that's something I'm interested in.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and play some of the trailer for Cruella, and then we'll come back here in a second and talk about it. Here it goes.
From the very beginning, I realized I saw the world differently than everyone else. That didn't sit well with some people. But I wasn't for everyone. I guess they were always scared that I'd be a psycho. But a new day brings new opportunities. And I was ready to make a statement. How does the saying go? I am woman, hear me roar. I'm just getting started, darling. The thing is, I was born brilliant, born fast, and a little bit mad. I'm Cruella.
All right, so that was the trailer for Cruella. Chris, so what's got you enticed about this project?
Well, first off, it looks like kind of Disney's decided to make like a Joker, which, just the fact I'm like, okay, interesting, because obviously Joker was a take on a very much beloved comic book character from the Batman franchise, and it was R-rated and it was dark. And we know the rest of everything else we've talked about with that particular film. So here you have Disney, who, prides itself on family entertainment and, taking a character from a beloved movie. And this, comes across as, Emma Stone mentions a couple of times in the trailer, being, crazy or, looking, and she looks and acts somewhat disturbed. So not that, she's the villain in the 101 Dalmatians movie, but just, I'm sure they won't go total dark because it is Disney.
Yeah.
But it looks to be an interesting film. And I think I would be surprised if Emma Stone just didn't have a blast playing this.
She seems to be in the trailer. So absolutely.
And I think that I don't know. I think I'm in the mood for something like this that'll be different and maybe, she's having fun, and I can see Paul Walter Hauser seems to be playing like one of the stooges that she has. And I could see him just kind of really having fun with that too. So I don't know.
Could be good.
It could be. It sounds like it could be good.
Here's my, so I showed this trailer at my house, and my wife immediately when the trailer's done, she's like, okay, that's brilliant. I'm like, oh. So the idea of like taking, the villain and making something very stylish around it and kind of it seems a little dark. I agree with you. I don't think Disney is going to let it go super dark. Well, if anything, the thing I'm a little worried about is it's going to
be too light and funny.
It's actually going to be kind of redeeming her as a while. Although she murders puppies. Okay, let's go ahead and remember in 101 Dalmatians, she kills dogs.
Okay, now so we'll get, hopefully people, if you had any desire to see Maleficent, you did. Something that film did is they did try to redeem Maleficent a little bit. And that was a surprise to me. I didn't know that they were going to do that. And I thought that was kind of cool. Because, in the original Sleeping Beauty, you just hate her. She's a witch and you just hate her. With this, I will be a little angry and disappointed if they do try to redeem her because, I don't really... Maybe you feel a little sorry for her because she feels like she's always been kind of like the Joker complex. I've always been a loser. People treat me this way. They treat me unfairly, but then you go and become a complete wacko. Like, I don't know, but I feel like it would be a mistake maybe to try to redeem her. Maybe.
Well, it's just hard to reconcile if you redeem her in this film and give her a backstory that makes you sympathize with her, and then you realize, the next time we see her in the actual original 101 Dalmatians, she's a dog murderer. Right. So it's going to be really hard for just people, I think.
She's just a dog murderer.
Yeah. It's going to be really hard to reconcile that, right. I think, so with people. But I'll be curious. I don't expect Disney to let it go completely dark. There's some shots in the trailer where you've got her crying as she's like driving away. It makes you kind of think that she's going to be, you're going to see a little more of a sympathetic side or understanding her a little bit more. I don't know.
Well, I think
I just don't want all the Disney villains to just become good people all of a sudden,
right.
or misunderstood characters, and I don't know.
Well, a lot. What has me excited too, there again, it's just a trailer, but a lot of the shots look really well done.
The shot looks the film looks really really great. I love the style of it, and like you said, I think Emma Stone seems to be having a lot of fun. This is just a role you can just completely go overboard with and have fun with.
It doesn't appear that it's taking itself too seriously because of some of her line deliveries and the way they have the trailer edited. It'll be just cartoonish enough that I think it'll be able to maintain like a PG rating or a PG-13 rating.
Yeah.
But just edgy enough to be something different. Maybe. We'll see.
All right.
Sounds like it could be good.
It could be. We're going to keep our eye on it. I think that's got a release date of, May. So like 2 months away.
And I think, again, I just blanked on the trailer because we watched it really quick, but I think it said only in theaters May 28th, and then maybe they'll be brought to Disney Plus as opposed to doing a simultaneous release.
Yeah, I don't know offhand what the release schedule is on it. I do believe they weren't planning on going to Disney Plus first.
Right.
So I think theatrical.
They're not pulling a Mulan.
Right. Hoping that by May there'll be some more theater activity, and then it should be going to Disney Plus within some window of time, I would imagine. Sure. So, okay. Good deal. Well, that is our news, Golden Globes, and the trailer for the new film Cruella. Chris, it's the point of our show now where we always kind of end our episodes with a recommendation. Yes. You and I both kind of scour our film list and history and look to see films that we may want to recommend to the audience, or just whether it's a film we had a chance to kind of revisit recently or we just came into contact with for the first time, whatever that case may be. I'm going to let you go first, Chris, and tell me what your recommendation for the episode is this week.
Well, as I kind of alluded to when we were discussing the Golden Globes, I did catch up with I Care a Lot, the comedy crime thriller. That's how it's listed in IMDb, that stars Rosamund Pike. She is a crooked legal guardian who drains the savings of her elderly patients' wards and meets her match when she decides she picks one woman and tries to swindle her, and played by Diane Wiest, which is fun to see Diane Wiest in this role of this elderly person. And it turns out to be a lot more than what she'd kind of bargained for. And I'll just leave it at that. But Rosamund Pike, I remember her from Gone Girl.
Yeah.
And that was a really, big performance and stuff. But I'd kind of forgotten about her. And this is kind of like a movie where she's like, hello, remember me? I'm awesome. And yes, I think she is really good. I can see why she got a nomination, why she won for this film. It did come straight to Netflix. So I can see that's why it's, because, Netflix uses the fire hose approach and you don't really see a lot of stuff coming out. So this is a chance, maybe to try to catch up with it before the Oscars. It is, available on Netflix. The story is surprising, and I will say, obviously it's dark. I mean, it's a person who's manipulating elderly people and milking them for their money. It's dark, but it manages to find comedy, and there are also some brutal things that happen between what happens with some competition that she has. The supporting cast, I'll just say, I mentioned Diane Wiest. Peter Dinklage is in this, and he's awesome.
Okay.
And that's
cool.
all I'll say.
Wow.
And Macon Blair, who's kind of an independent film person, he's in this as well. And I really liked the part that he had in the film. So it is not for everyone. I would definitely say it is a hard R. It is it's more of just kind of like a drama, a crime drama, but it does have some comedic elements played well in there. So not for everyone, but if you're not scared by some of what I've said, it is definitely worth checking out. I'd be interested to hear your take on it, Alan.
All right. Well, it has definitely been added to my list. So I Care a Lot, starring Rosamund Pike. Again, she won for Best Actress in a comedy or musical. So I think that's the category. So, okay. Great. Thank you for that, Chris. And then Chris, things around us seem to be getting a little better, around the world. I feel like there's a little bit, we're starting to pull out of the last year that we've had, which has been troubling and problematic and not the best years at all.
Right.
So I had opportunity over the last couple of weeks, to watch films, and I had a choice. I said, do I watch something that's on this Oscar watch list that I probably need to watch, that is probably going to be very deep and impactful and something I need to really pay attention to? Or do I go for something kind of light, maybe a little dumb, but just something for fun? I went with the dumb fun. Okay. And what I ended up watching was the film, and I know you're a fan of the film because I see your Letterboxd rating on it. And remember, you talked about it in a previous episode, is the film Good Boys from just last year. This is the one starring Jacob Tremblay, who I really like Jacob Tremblay as an actor. I think he's great.
Okay, you've seen him in The Room.
I've seen him in Room, and I've seen him in this.
Okay, and that's
pretty much it. Yep.
Okay.
And he's great. He's such a good young actor. He's so much fun to watch. And I really like his two co-stars in this. So here's the thing. It's a young kid buddy comedy, a group of young boys, close to teenage years, but not quite there yet. They're on an epic quest to fix their broken drone before their parents get home. It sounds pretty simple, and it is a pretty simple movie, but it's really three boys during the course of this day, not only realizing that they're getting a little older and that things are going to change in their lives as they become teenagers, exploring their relationship between the three of them. But again, they have a drone that's gotten broken and stolen, and they have to try to get it back. It is a little raunchy, although I expected it to be more raunchy going in, but it's not as bad as I expected it to be, I guess, given all the buildup. It was a lot more sweet than I expected than raunchy. So
I remember too, that was my big takeaway. I remember seeing trailers for this movie in the theater, and I think some of them were even red band, maybe because and you're just like, oh, I'm not interested in this. Like, taking red band material and putting it on these little kids, like that's like cringe-inducing. But no, it's a lot sweeter than what
there are a few couple scenes
sure,
that are definitely meant for shock value of these kids kind of interacting with very adult situations.
Right.
But overall, I was more just interested in the dynamics of these three kids and their friendships. And what I really liked is there's kind of some development, even with one of the characters I think was, all three of them, but definitely the other two, the ones that were not Jacob Tremblay.
Got you.
Had some really interesting development paths as characters. So I really liked where the film ended with them. So I thought it was a fun movie. It was an enjoyable, nice surprise. Based like you said, based on the trailers that came out when this film came out, and even the posters. I don't know what it was for so long that they tried to make these comedies. The poster is always this bright red with these big white words, and it's always kind of this. It's supposed to denote this very raunchy kind of comedy thing, and I just don't think this deserved that kind of marketing. This is a much better film than the marketing gave it off to be. So I did like it a lot. So that's Good Boys. I had fun with it from 2019. I am recommending it. Yes, it is a little raunchy, so just be aware of that. It's not a family film, but it is. I think it's a fun film though. That's a good deal. All right. So that's Good Boys. And then I Care a Lot. Two comedies somewhat, at least some comedic parts in the film on both of them. And again, recapping, we had our reviews of Judas and the Black Messiah. We're both positive on that, if not maybe a little let down with what the potential could have been there. And then the film Rams, we're saying not as good as the original, and maybe the original had a little bit more interesting things going on in it, but this is still, I think, overall an enjoyable film to watch. And then we had our recommendations, and then our film news, the Golden Globes, talked about those outcomes, and the trailer for the new Disney film Cruella. So a nice big full episode, Chris, but if somebody had any thoughts at all, questions, ideas about anything we talked about, how would they go about getting a hold of us?
Please send us an email to info@footcandle.org, or you can also follow us on Twitter and message us on Twitter. We are at FootCandleFilm. Alan and I are also independently both on Letterboxd. You can try to track what we're seeing, and sometimes we do little short reviews there. I will say, I think Alan mentioned it at the very beginning of the show, but now until the festival will be my job to make sure I mention it. If you are a filmmaker, please submit a film for our 2021 Film Festival that'll be held September 22nd through the 26th. You can go to either Film Freeway, which is how you can submit a film, or you can go to our website, footcandle.org, and find out information there about the film festival. But one way or the other, the festival is coming up. You can watch the films when it does happen, or submit a film for consideration.
All right. That's great. Well, we're going to go ahead and wrap up the show. Remember to visit themesh.tv to see not only back episodes of this show, but finding other shows and podcasts to listen to as well. Themesh.tv, TheMesh.tv is where you can do that. Footcandle.org is where you can follow the Foot Candle Film Society and see that the films that we have available, especially on our online virtual cinema. We do encourage you to check that out. And also the Foot Candle Film Festival, Chris has already mentioned. So lots of ways to stay in touch with us, and we hope to hear from you soon. But until then, we will just be ready to record our next episode coming up soon. Until then, take care. Thanks for listening.
See you in the ticket line.
Watch films in the company of like-minded people in the dark. Watch films in the underground. We won't let anyone know where you are. The films that don't make it to Carmike at the mall, or ones that were famous when Grandpa would watch films out of the reverence of the heritage of an art. Watch films through the courtesy of Foot Candle Film Society.
Special thanks to Carpal Tuller for the show theme music. For more about Carpal Tuller, visit www.carpaltuller.com. You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.